You know, after years in global sourcing, I've learned that the biggest lessons, they almost always come from the smallest details. So today I want to share a story from my own experience, a case that really drove home just how critical precision and trust are when the pressure is really on. Believe it or not, it's a story about a stitch that almost unraveled a multi-million-dollar deal.
Yeah, this was one of those moments that really puts everything to the test. And that quote you're looking at, that's not me being dramatic. The stakes were incredibly high. And we're not just talking about the product itself, but about the frontline healthcare workers who were depending on it.
So let's set the scene. Picture it, early 2021. The world is right in the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic. A client in the UK calls me and they have an urgent, a critical need for disposable patient gowns for their healthcare facilities. The pressure was on. Big time.
My mission was crystal clear: find a top-tier Turkish manufacturer, one who could produce these gowns to exact technical standards, do it at scale, and basically do it immediately. This is the classic sourcing challenge, right? You've got to balance that urgent need for speed with an absolute, non-negotiable requirement for quality. There was just zero room for error.
All right, so the hunt was on. And we couldn't afford to take any chances, which meant we had to go completely by the book. A thorough, meticulous process of vetting any potential partners was absolutely essential.
And this was our process, step by step. We didn't just find any producer. No way. We found one with a proven track record in exports. I personally went over their certifications to ensure they were compliant with all the EU and UK standards. And then I actually flew out to inspect the facilities myself. The final step? Approving a physical sample made to the client's exact specs. By all accounts, we had done everything right. So, with all the boxes ticked and the sample signed off on, the client felt really confident. They placed a huge order, paid up front, and production kicked off right away. At this point, everything was running exactly as planned. Smooth sailing.
Now, because of the urgency, the client asked for a small, partial shipment to be sent ahead by road freight. That first batch arrived in the UK, and that's when a tiny detail threatened to unravel the entire project. So what did they find? After all that meticulous planning, after the perfect samples, the vetted factory, the client discovered a problem that was, at first glance, almost invisible. And here was the issue. It all came down to a single thread. As you can see here, the approved sample used a robust 4-thread overlock stitch, but the delivered gowns, they used a weaker 3-thread stitch. Now, to the naked eye, it's a tiny difference, but in terms of performance, it was a critical failure. That one change compromised the gown's durability, meaning the entire shipment failed to meet the specifications, period.
The client's response was, as you can imagine, immediate and decisive. They rejected the shipment, flat out. Their position was firm. Either the manufacturer remakes the entire order to the correct standard, or the deal is off, completely. We had a full-blown crisis on our hands.
So, the very next morning, I was at the factory, in person. It was time to move from just identifying the problem to actually solving it, and to try and turn this potential disaster into an opportunity to build a real, lasting partnership.
That initial conversation, well, it was tense. The production director argued it was just a minor difference, a mix-up caused by the rush. But I held firm, calmly explaining that for a medical product, there's no such thing as a minor deviation. The spec is the spec. And after some persistent but always professional negotiation, we reached a breakthrough. The factory agreed to remake the entire order correctly, all at their own expense.
You know, an experience like this is a powerful reminder of some of the fundamental rules in global sourcing. So I want to share the 6 key takeaways that this one little stitch taught me.
First off, verbal agreements are never, ever enough. Every single detail, from the material to the packaging to the type of stitch, it has to be documented. And that approved sample, what we call the witness sample, that becomes your ultimate physical contract for quality. This whole crisis could have been avoided with one simple step: a pre-shipment inspection. Even when you're under immense time pressure, this is a step you just cannot skip. A few hours spent on a physical check would have saved weeks of costly corrections, freight charges, and a whole lot of potential damage to everyone's reputation.
Okay, there is a huge difference between a factory that produces for its local market and one with true export experience. An experienced exporter understands that compliance with international standards and documentation, it isn't just a suggestion, it's a core part of the job.
My being at the factory was crucial in resolving this. It just highlights the immense value of having a trusted partner on the ground. For a buyer who's thousands of miles away, having someone local to verify progress, communicate clearly, and bridge those cultural gaps, well, that provides a level of confidence and control you simply can't get from behind a computer screen.
Let's be realistic. Problems happen in global trade. A great partner isn't someone who never makes a mistake. It's someone who handles mistakes with accountability, with transparency, and with a real commitment to making things right. That's the true test of a partnership.
And finally, trust. This whole difficult experience actually strengthened the relationship between everyone involved. The manufacturer improved their internal controls, and the buyer saw that their partner was truly committed to quality, even after a mistake. Trust that's been tested and then repaired is often the strongest kind there is.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about. We aren't just moving boxes and signing contracts. We're building complex relationships and systems of trust that have to withstand pressure and uncertainty. Every order, every visit, and every problem you solve together just adds another stitch to that fabric.
And as this story shows, sometimes one single missing stitch can teach you everything you need to know about how to build those global partnerships the right way. It's a lesson I know I'll never forget.